Hello, everyone, and welcome to this latest episode in the CWSI Thought Leadership series. Today, we're going to be focusing on cloud security, primarily in an Azure context. And I'm delighted to have with me Ray Mulligan from Microsoft. And I'm going to invite Ray now to give a quick introduction to himself, and then we'll get right into it. Ray, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. Hi, Paul. Thanks for having me on the call. So I'm the Azure sales lead for enterprise and public sector customers across pretty much all the industries in Ireland. And my team specialises in infrastructure, data and AI, and application innovation. And really we focus on helping customers, delivering cutting edge solutions to meet whatever their needs are, really.
Brilliant. Sounds like a great job.
Yeah.
And I think if you can maybe give us a bit more detail, because I know a little bit about your background from chatting before, and I think people might be interested in where you've come from to get to where you are now, because I think it's in a way a mirror of where the technology has gone. So maybe you might expand on that if you don't mind.
Sure, no problem. So I was 17 years as a developer, building web applications, databases in the background, integration solutions. And then I kind of transitioned to a technical architect or solution architect role, designing and building applications, with partners for a diverse range of customers. And that was, most of the early parts of that career was done in London and Sydney. And then I returned back to Ireland, joined a partner in Ireland, and then continued to the same role. And it was in that role in the partner in Ireland that when I was building applications for customers, that I discovered, the PaaS, the platform as a service capabilities in Azure. And that allowed me to focus on the passion of writing code without really worrying about the underlying infrastructure. So I built applications there for a fair number of years with them, including doing the architect's role. And then in 2017, I joined Microsoft, still in a technical role as what was called Azure Technical Solution Professional for apps, which basically meant that I worked on POCs with customers to demonstrate the capabilities really within Azure, and then I kind of more than that oversaw sort of large scale architectures, ensuring their capability with Azure, and making sure that they would work really well. And then, as Microsoft has a big growth mindset, I transitioned more into the application innovation specialist role. Another title within Microsoft, there's always different kind of titles, but really that meant that I moved from the technical role into more of a sales specialist role around app integration. Now, the thing about Azure is, as anybody knows, if they're talking about anybody about it, it gets technical immediately. Yeah. So having a technical background and moving into the sales role was really key. And really all my team have kind of come from that sort of area. So I worked then as the sales specialist role, I had more access to sort of a global sales team and multiple partners to help then more customers transition to Azure. And then a little bit more, in 2021, I was given the opportunity to move into the Azure sales lead role. So that's for all of Ireland, and I lead a team of 11 experts now, in all things Azure. So we handle everything from large data center migrations, data warehousing, modernizing applications, and now the difference today is all of that is infused with artificial intelligence. So to be honest, it's a kind of a dream job, and really it's made possible by the team because they're really fantastic. So it's good. Enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, and I think one of the best things about cloud is it's you never stop learning, right? Because like even when you're, as you say, not strictly technical, you still have to be technical. Like I don't maybe get as much time on console as I used to, but I still find that a week can go by and things can be different potentially in terms of how you do things, how you deploy things, the tools that are available to you. So it's very different from traditional on-prem architecture, I think, where they're in yearly cycles, whereas this is kind of in weekly, monthly cycles.
Very much so, yeah. I think that's probably one of the hardest thing is in keeping on top of all the updates, right? They come daily now rather than monthly, so it's but it's an interesting space to be,
Yeah, I think it leads into one of the other questions I wanted to chat to you about really is like everyone is moving something to the cloud, right? There's some organizations that have made massive investments. We at CWSI are basically almost a born in the cloud organization. We've nothing left in terms of physical infrastructure. We do everything in Azure and SaaS. But I think what I've seen in a lot of customers is that hasn't necessarily been done in a very structured way. It might have been done in a use case by use case way, or to solve a specific problem. And I think a lot of organizations are now struggling as they've moved past that kind of tipping point where the majority of their infrastructure is moved in the cloud direction, and that it's very, very difficult to kind of get a handle on everything, and maybe it isn't as designed as perfectly as it could be. So if you maybe took an example of an enterprise customer who was somehow hadn't put everything in the cloud yet and was coming to you and saying, I want to do this in a structured way. What would that look like? How would you work with someone in that kind of scenario?
Look, it's very common for organizations to move workloads to the cloud in a kind of a more of a reactive case by case manner, rather than really thinking strategically like you guys have done at CWSI about what is my transition? What's my digital transformation for the organization? But look, there is a better way to approach cloud migration. For enterprise customers, a really good starting point is the use of the Azure migration program that we have in Microsoft. Or we call it AMP. So it's a kind of a centrally managed migration in Azure to Azure, while enabling, making sure that the customer is going to be successful in the end. So centrally managed within Microsoft, and we have project managers that are all part of that project. And then the actual delivery of those projects is done by one of the partners that we work with to make sure that's really successful. But as part of that, we use tools like Azure Migrate, and that can really be give a real deep understanding, discovery. It'll do assessments and migrate some of the on-prem infrastructure and applications and data to Azure in more of a structured, organized manner. Now, that's if you want to lift and shift your infrastructure, right? There's much more of a conversation and more assessments that we can do around whether you should retire some of the applications, whether you should rebuild it, re-architect it, and we do all that as part of that process. And there's a wide range of tools as part of that Azure migration program that, and then it'll include other components that we've got on our marketplace from independent software vendors that'll help to do it. But by leveraging Azure Migrate, customers can execute the migration in a more strategic, structured way, ensuring a much smoother transition to the cloud. And then we partner with many, as I said, system integrators locally, and we can deliver these projects to customers. So what I would say to anybody that's really wanting to do it is speak to Microsoft and speak to our partners. We've got loads of options to help, and really, a lot of customers dip in their toe, but once they figure out that this is a really good thing for them, we've got lots of programs that can help make that more strategic.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of really interesting things there. Some people might not be aware of some of these tools, and also I think the fact that it's not just a lift and shift migration. You should probably take these. I've had this conversation with a number of customers. You should take this as a moment to rethink how you did things. Just because you built it that way 10 years ago, is that still the best way for it to be now? And like for us in CWSI, obviously our main focus with working with customers is on security, and how do you wrap security around these kind of cloud solutions, your endpoints, both on the kind of SaaS side, but also on the Azure and the cloud security space, and on other cloud platforms as well, because most organizations are probably going to have multi-cloud in their environment, or to some degree, and you need to kind of factor that in. I think in the kind of SaaS space and the endpoint space, for me, the security tools are really mature. I think what you can do now in terms of the Intune, Defender, Purview type tooling and their equivalents is light years away from the kind of tools we had when we had to do everything on-prem. They're much more flexible, they're much more adaptable, and they're much more suited to kind of modern security threats where you need to update really quickly, you need to reconfigure and detect threats really quickly, and you can't be kind of sitting back. In the cloud security infrastructure space, do you see the same security benefits? Do you think it's easier and more effective to do security in the cloud than it might have been on-prem?
Yeah, I mean, there's a perception that, running things on-prem is more secure than running on the cloud. But I mean, with the new assessments that CWSI is offering to do a security assessment of everything that's running on Azure, you can soon get to see that you can get to a high level security based on the tools. But I mean, Azure provides a secure foundation for all the cloud infrastructure, multi-layered and zero trust based. But that helps you protect your applications, your virtual networks, your workloads, your data. You can take it to the end level. You can take it to the cell level in your data, depending on what you need. And there's many tools to detect vulnerabilities and threats. In today's day and age, right? You need to protect against malicious attacks. So there's lots of capabilities in there. But there's with Azure, with the likes of, like, example, Azure Security Center, right? That provides a central view of all your security recommendations for everything that you've got deployed across Azure, and that'll allow you to identify and address vulnerabilities across the infrastructure. There's also fine-grained security controls, as I said, down to the real deep level of your data. Native tools are all there to allow you to make sure that your security posture is comprehensive and meets your business needs. So we monitor trillions of diverse signals every day to make sure that we can provide the intelligence back out to our customers, make sure their infrastructure and their deployment is secure.
Yeah, for me, like, I think there's a couple of key things with having a background in doing a lot of management of old on-prem. I was a firewall admin for years, and network admin, and the speed and the ease to spin up baseline secure firewalls, your network security groups, all the stuff that any old hat network security people understand. But the stuff that I really like is the ability to bring all your data into one place, so you can get a much better view of everything. You're not trying to marry together loads of different systems into a seam or something like that. You're getting much more faster intelligence about what's going on. Is somebody probing my network? Are they trying to come in from different areas? And then also you mentioned some of the data security pieces, which is kind of my main area that I work in, and that ability to, as I always say, assume they get in, and how do you detect when they're in, and how do you minimize the damage when they're in there? And that's where all the data classification, the encryption at the data layer, even simple things like row level security in databases. There's so many different things you can put in there to get that onion layer of security, so that at least if they do get in, because let's be honest, if they're suitably motivated and they're suitably resourced, they will probably find a way in, regardless of all the layers you have. You can minimize the risk, detect them really quickly, and kick them out again. So that for me, I think, is the real benefit of cloud, is that speed. Because I don't think that it's very difficult to build that in an on-prem shop, particularly if you're not a giant enterprise.
Yeah, especially when you've got multiple estates all over the place, right? You need a central way to monitor those, and with the likes of Verk and Sentinel, you can monitor and manage those as well. So lots of tools there too.
Yeah, now we're running a little bit out of time, but the one thing we haven't spoken about is everybody's favorite topic at the moment, which is AI. There's been a lot of drama this week with in and out with Mr. Altman and OpenAI. And is he in Microsoft or is he back in OpenAI? I think he's back in OpenAI now.
He's back, yeah.
But I think I'm behind the hype, right? There's still a lot of actually things to be excited about in the AI space. And I think, obviously in Microsoft, you've got your kind of Copilot branded set of tools, and we've got Security Copilot, which is against the productivity side of Copilot. Where do you see that fitting in the kind of cloud security space and some of the benefits it's going to bring to security admins and infrastructure admins in the cloud area?
So I think, there has been a lot of hype But in reality, I mean, we've got access to all the tools now, and we're using them on our day-to-day basis. And really, it is kind of game changing. You know, we're heavily invested in the field, and we're, as you said, we're leveraging it across entire product set, right? It's going into everything, and you know, it's a key strategy for Microsoft. I suppose one of the most exciting areas of AI is Microsoft 365 Copilot. As you said, Security Copilot is there as well, and we talk about that in a second. But like the way to and most CEOs are looking for this, right? How do you improve productivity in ways that were completely previously, you know, unimaginable? And you know, another one is how we're leveraging AI to field data analysis. An example, Volvo Group, Microsoft worked with to create an enterprise cloud for utilizing AI services and AI document intelligence. Like this, it simplified their processing and saved them 10,000 manual hours. It's massive. You know, one Copilot that's close to my heart is GitHub Copilot. Coming from a developer background, I really wish I had that when I was a developer, right? It's the benefits that it has is phenomenal, not just in how it makes things a little bit easier to work and test, but it just makes developers happier, more productive. They're wanting to do a lot more, and that's been, you know, widely adopted across all developers. In terms of Security Copilot, I think that's going to be huge for security analysts across the globe, really. When you can talk in natural language to something and ask about your security posture of something that you've got deployed across your estate or across Azure, it's going to give you a different level. And you know, that's Copilot's been released in the Azure portal now as well to sort of span across your whole estate. See, and you can ask again natural language questions to it. So Copilot, place to be, and AI, massive investment for Microsoft, and you know, we don't see that stopping anytime soon.
Yeah, I think it's very exciting, and funnily enough, going back to something we spoke about at the start, where as soon as you go into cloud, it gets very technical. I think possibly AI in the future is going to be an abstraction layer that's possibly going to remove that a little bit. It's going to do a lot of that donkey work for you, so you can just naturally say, I want this, and it will go off and do it for you. Which is quite cool. It's like that kind of trusted lieutenant you always wished you had.
100%.
Yeah, but brilliant. Look, I think we could definitely talk about the AI side of things all day. I think that's been really, really interesting. And I think from the point of view of careers that didn't exist 10 years ago, you know, cloud infrastructure architects, those kind of things is where things are now, and it's a really interesting space. So thanks very much for your time, Ray. I really appreciate it, and look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Brilliant. Thanks a million, Paul. Thanks for having me.
Brilliant. And that's the end of our episode today. Thanks very much, everybody, for listening. If anything we spoke about today is of interest, please do reach out, and look forward to our next session. Thanks very much.